Hello, hello. I'm Jordan and I am a knitter and designer here in Georgia. And this is Andalusia Knits, my knitting podcast where I take you through projects I've recently finished, projects I'm currently working on, and my plans for future projects. And I have a little bit of all of those for you today. I've got a new design, I've got a couple new designs that are almost ready to be released, and I have some new designs that are just ideas in my brain at this point, and I'm excited to share all that with you. And if you like knitting content like this, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I release knitting videos usually about 1 to 2 per week at this point, and I would love to have you around. I do podcast episodes like this, but I also do more knitting tutorial style videos, as well as more experiment and general information videos as well. So if those are things you like, I'd encourage you to subscribe to the channel. But for now, let's get on to today's episode because I got a lot to talk about, and we'll start with my finished objects. Okay, so first up today, I am excited because I not only have, excuse me, I'm excited because I not only have a new finished object, I have a new pattern that is available to go with it. And that is this little pillow cover right here in the corner next to me. And this is just the most recent version of the custom and cozy pillow cover that I have knit, which I have also now released as a pattern. And you can find that pattern in video form here on YouTube, or you can find it as a written version on Ravelry, and I will go ahead and put links to those down below in the description. But I am really loving this pillow. I was a little scared at first when I was making this one, not so much for the construction because I've done this a million times at this point, but when I was choosing my colors, and I've talked about this a little bit before, it turns out I was going for kind of like a springtime color combo with some like reds and purples and greens. But then the green ended up being a little like extraterrestrial green, and the purples and the reds ended up being a little more deserty. So it's kind of a weird color combo. I've been calling it Roswell because I think that's appropriate, like deserts and aliens. But it actually turned out pretty nice though. Like I think that the colors still vibe together. It's just maybe not the vibe that I was initially expecting with this thing. And I kind of struggled with picking out buttons for this one too, trying to think of like what colors would go well with all three of these together. And so in the past, like the button choice has been really easy for me, like either just like plain white buttons or plain black buttons. I've used both of those quite a bit, and that usually works just fine. But I was thinking like, just plain white or plain black, neither one of those really like complements these colors very well, I didn't think. And so I tried to kind of stick with the desert theme and went with sort of these like brownish tortoise shell looking buttons, and it ended up working really well. I think that a lot of my worries about these color combos was unfounded once I finally got everything together and assembled. But yeah, so this is my new pillow cover. This is a nice one. It's now in rotation in my home. Although I did kind of skimp on the pillow insert itself. It's not the most high quality. I might have to go back and buy one that is gonna be able to keep its shape a little bit better. This one's kind of flattening out on me faster than I want. But very pleased with the knitting itself. So this is knit in 2 pieces. It's 2 garter stitch panels that you then seam together. And here on the sides, you got this mattress stitch going on, which in garter stitch creates this nice, like, still visible, but looks very intentional and very clean sort of seam. And then here on the bottom, I have this sort of nice seam that I still don't know if there's an actual name for this, but it was a technique that I sort of stumbled upon as I was working out different ways to seam the bottom, but I like that it creates a very like firm structural and once again like intentional and clean looking seam. So if this is something that you would be interested in knitting yourself, it is entirely possible for you to do that now. Like I said, there is a written pattern and a video tutorial that are linked in the description. And I have designed this pattern to be used with any yarn you want. So any size yarn you want, you're good to go. That being said, I do have some suggestions in the pattern if you don't know what to go with. So if you would rather me make those decisions for you, I can do that as well. That is also covered in the pattern. But yeah, any yarn, you can knit any size, any square or rectangular pillow cover you want. And yeah, that's the custom and cozy pillow cover, so be on the lookout for that. Next up, I have a couple of other finished objects from a video I recently released, and that is these two beanies, these double-stranded chunky knit beanies that I originally knit for a video where I timed myself to see how long it took me to knit these. And I will link to that video as well. I won't go into a lot of the time stuff here, but I do want to talk about these because at least this one I was very pleasantly surprised with. So this one on this side is a fully ribbed beanie, and this one on this side is mostly stockinette with a little bit of rib down here at the bottom. And I have to say that I am so disappointed with this one versus this one. And you can kind of just tell by me holding these up here that this one just looks a lot nice and neater, and this one's all crumpled up, especially here at the top. The decreases just really didn't work out. I was disappointed. My original thought with this one was that it would take me less time to knit this one since it is stockinette as opposed to all ribbing. And while it did save me a little time, it did not save me enough time to justify all the new problems it creates, specifically up here in the shaping. I just really was disappointed with the way this one turned out. I have to say that even though this all rib one took a little bit longer, it's absolutely worth the effort. And this one is good enough. I actually think I will probably put it in my rotation. It's nice and colorful, but not super crazy. Like, it's not something that I would be sort of self-conscious to wear out, I don't think. So yeah, I really like this one, and these are not my first experiments with these stranded chunky knit beanies. If you've watched the channel before, you might have seen the video where I experiment with crochet granny square yarn and did some beanies, like double stranded beanies like this as well. And at the time when I was doing these granny square beanies, I was like happy with the visual results that I was getting, but I really did not like the way these felt. I did not like the way these the way the yarn felt. I didn't like the way it felt on my head. And so I sort of just wrote it off as, okay, well, these chunky beanies are good for experiments, but they're not particularly good for like actually creating things I want to wear. But it turns out that it's mostly just this Red Heart granny square yarn that I don't like. When I switched to another acrylic yarn, and this is, I believe, I love this yarn acrylic, and I'll put the colorway on the screen because I don't know it off the top of my head. But even a switch to another like big box store acrylic made all the difference. This feels so much nicer. This feels like actual like fabric. This feels like something I want to actually put on my head. So even though I was a little disappointed with how this one turned out, I'm glad I did these timed experiments because I absolutely will be using this. It feels great. I think it looks pretty good as well. And yeah, those are my finished object beanies for this episode. Now we are moving into the works in progress. And the first whip I have, I am seeing a little bit of double because I have two of basically the exact same thing going on here. So this is the Chosen One cowl, and this is a cowl design that I've been working on now. I guess I started the cowl specifically like a month or so ago, but this is based on a scarf design that I did last year that was just, it was just a little too much. There were too many design elements. I was trying to throw in too much stuff into one piece, and it just looked kind of crazy and chaotic, and I wasn't happy with that finished result. But at the same time, I didn't hate any like one specific design element in the piece. It was just like they were all good things. They were just like too many good things shoved into one scarf. And so this year, about a month or so ago, I started making a cowl design based on the element that I liked the most from that scarf. and that element was these zigzag stripes I've got going on here. And if I get up real close, you'll see that this is stranded color work, but it's done where the contrast color is done using pearl bumps, and then the background color is done using regular knit stitches. But then if you look on the inside, it's like, you know, the floats are just like normal. It's just regular stranded color work. I am just purling the contrast color instead of knitting the contrast color. And so I started this sample, and I ran into a problem that I had not encountered before. So this was not my first time doing this purl bump color work before, but all the other times I've done this, I've been knitting projects at a pretty tight gauge. Like I typically prefer a tighter than normal gauge on my stuff. But as I am learning more about designing, I want to make my designs as accessible to others as possible. And so this time I was like, hey, you know what? Let's go with a more reasonable gauge. Let's go with a gauge that's suggested on the ball band. And so I did that with this. This is a DK weight yarn. This is Barocco Vintage DK, so half wool, half acrylic. And as I started knitting this up, I noticed, and you can probably see this as well, like these ridges forming as the pink zigzag lines get bigger, these like thick ridges where things kind of fold up on themselves. That starts to happen. And so you get these like peaks and valleys where like it's kind of like a quilted looking fabric. And it's not terrible, but it's also not what I intended for this to look like either. So after I knit a good portion of a sample and blocked it, wasn't happy with the results, and so I went down to a smaller needle size. And this one honestly looks crazier than the first one, but that is because this one has already been blocked. This one has not been blocked at all. And it actually looks a lot nicer and a lot less crazy than this first one did before it was blocked. But I'm definitely still getting sort of that quilted, like ridging sort of thing. And my guess is that it has to do something with the tension. Because if I look at let's hope I can do this without knocking all the stitches off the needles. But if I flip this inside out, like I don't see any issues with like the tension of my floats or anything like that would be causing this puckering. Oh God, did I knock? Okay, no, we're good. Thought I had knocked some stitches off. So I don't think it's like a float tension issue. I really think it's just like a general fabric tension issue, because like I said, like I've done this like pearl bump zigzag design and other things before, and it's just fine. I don't have any issues like this, but it's also scenarios where I'm knitting at a denser gauge. So anyways, this is attempt 2 on the Chosen One cowl, and I am getting close to like the halfway point. So I'm going to finish up like one chart of this and then block it and see if this stuff goes away. And if this doesn't go away, I do at least have a plan C to go with. And that is simply, so right now the design idea, and let's see, let me use this one. You can kind of see it. It's a little bit, knit a little bit longer. So the idea is like, I'll come back and graft both ends together at the end. But so I'll have like one part where it's like all blue, and then some zigzag, the pink zigzags grow into a section to where it's all pink. So this section right here, this all pink section. And then gradually the zigzags return and we go back to this all blue section, loops back around to this all blue section at the beginning. That was my original intention. If I can't get the fabric to work like I want though, I'm just gonna do thinner zigzag stripes all the way around the cowl, because this sort of like quilted like ridge sort of phenomenon, it doesn't really show up and start happening a lot until the pink zigzag stripes get to be about 6 or 7 stitches wide. But I think as long as I keep the stripes smaller than that, it should prevent that from happening. But like I said, we'll have to see. I want to see if I can get my original idea to work, where I go from like all blue to zigzags to pink to zigzags to all blue. And if that doesn't work, then I'm just going to do thin zigzag stripes around the entire circumference of the cowl. But yeah, so that is the Chosen One cowl. It's still got a hot minute. It still needs a little time in the incubator before it's ready to be released to the world. But if this is something that looks interesting to you, be on the lookout because it will be coming at some point in the future. So my next work in progress is barely in progress at this point. Like I've got a few swatches to show and some ideas to talk about. But I have just recently started working on this within probably the last week or so, thinking about like what I want this design to be. And so basically my thought was, I like the Chosen One Cowl, what I just showed you. Like I feel strongly about it and I want to like work out these problems and figure out a solution and get it released. But I'm also thinking, like, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it is already April, and so regardless of where you may live, like, the opportunity for wearing a cowl for the rest of this season is pretty fleeting. Like, we're quickly moving into spring and summertime temperatures, and that is not really conducive to cowl wearing or cowl knitting. And so I wanted to come up with a design that is more appropriate and a little bit more lightweight. And so my initial thought was to do some stuff with dropped stitches. And so I have a few dropped stitch swatches here. This was the first one I worked on with some stockinette stitch and drop stitches. And so for those who don't know, like a drop stitch design is basically where you are intentionally slipping stitches off the needles and unraveling them. And when you do that, it creates these horizontal bars of fabric between the other stitches. And so I did some stockinette swatching, and then I did some garter swatching, a little bit smaller, and then I did some more garter swatching. And I like the path that I am headed on. So first and foremost, I love this yarn. I wasn't sure if it was going to work with a design like this, like something that's kind of open, but this variegated color has been working really well. This is Yarn Bee hand-dyed yarn, which I don't for a minute. This is Hobby Lobby's quote-unquote hand-dyed yarn. And while I don't for a minute believe that this is actually hand-dyed, because like the variegation like happens very regularly, like suspiciously regularly for being hand-dyed. So while I don't believe for a minute that it was actually hand-dyed, however it was dyed, they did a fantastic job on it. And it really works with these drop stitches. I like how all of the horizontal bars of yarn are like different colors as you move down. So anyways, my thought so far for this design is some sort of wrap, some sort of shawl, because that is just a nice like medium for doing this sort of like open, it's not really lace work, it's sort of like faux lace work, but that's a great sort of like object, a great garment to do that sort of work on. So it's going to be something that, you know, you drape around the upper portion, your shoulders, your neck area, that sort of thing. And my big goal for this is I want it to look like show-stopping. I want it to look stunning, but I want it to be really, really easy. I want this to be super duper accessible. And I talked about this in the Chosen One section as well, where I want, you know, I want my designs to like, I don't want people to be super intimidated by my designs. I want people to actually be motivated to knit them and not be afraid to like try them out. And so I really am trying to gear this drop stitch design towards like just the most beginner of knitters. Maybe not, this is maybe not your first project you ever do, but it's possibly the second project you ever do, that sort of thing. And while I'm finding that really hard and annoying, like it's a satisfying sort of challenge at the same time. Like it's a good kind of annoying. Like it's a problem that I know once I figure the solution to it, it's gonna make me feel good. But while I'm currently in the thick of it and I don't have a solution to it, it stresses me out a little bit. But that's what I am currently working through, some things like this. And right now I'm thinking of, yeah, just some sort of wrap where like stitches are being dropped in columns, but maybe the columns are not necessarily all the same length. They're not all the same height or all the same width. And so you get some like interesting different textures and things going on with that. But that's about as far as I've gotten. I still need to do a little bit more experimenting with the actual technique for securing and dropping the stitches, because if you just like drop stitches off the needles and unravel them, they're going to unravel all the way to the bottom, and I don't want that. And so you have to like prepare a row for the stitches to like stop unraveling at that point. And you have to think about the stitches on either side of the dropped column and their tendency to distort as you unravel the stitches. And so trying to find solutions to those problems, and granted there are tons of solutions to these problems already available. The issue is I'm trying to keep the design and the construction as simple as possible to make it as accessible as possible. And so yeah, like it could be just as easy as like working, you know, either stitch on either side of the column through the back loop. But you know, for a beginner, that's not necessarily like the most ideal setup. So trying to find find solutions that look good, that still look elegant, that still look clean and classy, but that are also easily executable by early knitters is a real challenge. And like I said, it's a fun challenge. I know that I'm going to feel that nice sense of accomplishment once everything does fall into place. But currently, with everything out of place, it is a little stressful trying to juggle all of these different demands in the design. But yeah, stay on the lookout for updates on this, because hopefully I will have some solutions in the next video. Alrighty, so finally today, I don't have any more new knitting to show you, but I did want to talk about a couple upcoming videos and designs that I have that will be out shortly. And so first and foremost, I'll talk about the first thing that includes both, and that is my new walking distance scarf. This is a new design I have, and it is ready to be released this upcoming week. And I am currently in the process of creating both like a promo video for the release of this pattern, as well as a tutorial for doing the applied I-cord edging around the scarf. So let me kind of bring it up close, and you can see like around the border of the body of the scarf, I have knit an applied I-cord edge. And this tutorial will walk you through everything you need to know about doing the vertical edges of the scarf, about doing the horizontal edges of the scarf, and also about turning the corners of the scarf, so moving from a vertical to a horizontal edge or vice versa. So I'm currently in the process of working on that, and while this tutorial, the applied I-cord tutorial, is originally intended for working around the perimeter of this scarf, like the instructions will work any sort of like time you want to add a border to stockinette. The instructions that I will have in that video will work for you. But I'm very excited about this release. This is a design that I feel really strongly about personally. I love these thick zigzag stripes. This is knit in intarsia, but it is a very like simple, it's a great like beginner, you're a great first intarsia project, because you're just working with like these big thick chunks of color. You're not doing any sort of like pictorial knitting or highly detailed things. It's a great pattern to sort of get your bearings around how to manage multiple balls of yarn as you're knitting intarsia, which I also have a video tutorial on that I will link below. But yeah, just currently working on a promo video for this new pattern release, as well as a tutorial video showing you how to work the applied I-cord edge around this scarf. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, that should be out within the week, and I will do my best to get a text post up on YouTube. I've only recently learned that that's possible for me to make sort of posts like that on here. So I will try to give you a heads up so that you can be on the lookout for this new design. And the other new design I have, it's really sad and pathetic. I don't have anything to show for it at this point except for a little bit of yarn and a pair of needles. But I am about to knit a new pair of socks, and I am going to use this as an opportunity to get my sock pattern onto paper and like make it a proper pattern. So if you've watched the channel before in the past, you may have seen and heard me talk about the socks I knit. And I do things a little differently than you might see in more traditional sock patterns. So I use 100% wool. I don't use any sort of nylon or superwash wool. And I knit my socks at a really dense gauge. And both of those things combined create really hard wearing socks. Now, they're not the fanciest socks, but they are super duper like hard wearing. I have pairs that I've worn regularly for like 2 or 3 years at this point, and they still no holes, no, not even close to developing holes at this point. And so the angle for this sock tutorial, for this sock pattern, is creating socks that are going to be long lasting, that are not going to like wear holes in them the moment that you look at them wrong. So the real focus, the emphasis, sort of what's going to make this tutorial unique among sock tutorials is the emphasis on choosing the correct fibers, knitting the correct gauge, and doing the correct techniques that will promote the most longevity in these socks. And so, like I said, I'm currently about to start a sample pair for this tutorial. And currently I'm thinking that I'm going to do it sort of like I did the custom and cozy pillow cover tutorial, where I have a step-by-step walkthrough here on YouTube, and then I also have a written version for people who want it available on Ravelry. But that is currently just in its infancy. I'm just getting started on that. But I'm excited to be able to offer a design where you're not like worried immediately that the socks are going to get holes in them, because that's super annoying. Like before I got good at knitting socks, it was a matter of just like weeks to months before my socks would wear holes in them. And I'm the kind of person that like I technically know how to darn a sock. It's super annoying though. I don't want to do it. And so basically once my socks get holes, it's a death sentence for them. And I don't want to throw away things I've knit. And so the best course of action for me, and maybe people like me, is to knit socks that are going to last a really long time, that are going to hold up for a long time before they start to show signs of wear. So that is what is currently, you know, percolating in terms of designs and new knits for me. And I think that's gonna do it in terms of that. All right, well, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. I think I've hit everything I wanted to discuss today. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching all the way through. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know what you think of my projects in the comments, or let me know what you're currently working on. I'd love to hear that. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up, so that I know that you liked it and so that YouTube knows you liked it. And if you enjoy knitting videos like this in general, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I am uploading 1 to 2 weeks of video at this point. I do podcast videos like this. I do tutorial videos like my custom and cozy pillow cover. And I also do just more like experimental general interest knitting videos as well. So love for you to stick around for those as well. But that's going to do it for me for today. So I will go ahead and say bye, and I'll see you in the next one. All right.